Right. We're ready to get going. Thanks for joining us, everyone, this afternoon. My name is Hannah Crapeau. I'm the Content Marketing Manager here at Certiport. We're so happy to have you joining us for our final Certified Academy webinar of 2024. Feel free to drop into the chat. Let us know where you're joining us from, what classes you teach, so that we can hopefully share some valuable and useful content for everyone today. Our session is being recorded, so if you have any questions throughout the presentation, of course, everyone else who's not presenting is on mute. Feel free to drop into the chat or the Q&A, and we'll make sure that our panelists address those today. We'll also be sending out the link to the full recording for our session via email afterwards. Our session today is being sponsored by our Information Technology Specialist Certification Program. The IT Specialist Program is a way for individuals to validate foundational IT skills sought after by employers. With IT Specialist certifications, candidates certify their knowledge in a broad range of IT topics, including AI, which is what we're going to be addressing today. And we're so pleased to be talking about how you can help students understand artificial intelligence. And we're very lucky to be joined by Jesse Callow. And I believe, Jesse, one of your former students, is that correct?
Correct.
Fabulous. So I'll go ahead and actually stop sharing then. And Jesse will have you, you both introduce yourselves, if that's all right.
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Jesse Clue. I'm a teacher at Thomas Edison High School in New York City. This was actually the school I graduated from when I was in high school. So I'm excited to be giving back both to the school and now to everybody else who's on the call. Today, I'm joined by Devendra Sicharan. He was actually one of my students, class of 2020, so not too long ago. I recommended him to become part of a accelerated teaching program. So now he's actually back teaching with us at Edison, so another generation back at my school. But we brought him on so he's fairly new to the career, to the industry, and he's also a student. So he'll be able to give you a perspective on both the instructor side and as a college student or as a high school student, because what we're talking about actually was relevant during his time as a student. He had experience with that as well. So would you like to?
Yeah, I'm very happy that Mr. Blue reached out to partner with him to do this. I've definitely had my fair share of experience using AI, whether it be as a college student or as a teacher. So I'm happy to share my insight with you guys about how you might be able to implement this in your classroom or even in your own personal lives as teachers.
Fabulous. Well, we're so excited to have you both here. And we'll start, you have some fabulous resources that we wanted to share, but we'll start with just a few kind of questions to get the conversation going. So just to lead in, why do you both think it's important for students to understand AI?
Well, AI is broad.
Yeah.
It's more than we see on a day-to-day basis. I think that AI is taking over the industry in a fast pace right now. And being able to understand what it does, why we have it, and how it can help us will be very important. When we get into future slides, we discussed that it's not here to take over what we do every day, but it's here to help us and make streamlined processes. And the technology behind all of this is enormous, and we're advancing at higher speeds than we can ever seen possible because of AI. So I think understanding how it works and how we can use it to better ourselves, it'll be important for students and teachers.
I definitely agree. I think that AI is something that a lot of students, they're hearing about it, they're seeing it in just modern day technology that they're using. But some of them, they're not really acquainted into how it actually works and understanding what the uses of it is. So I think educating our teachers on it, educating just the people that are guiding them on how to use it and how it can be used, I think that's definitely going to help progress them to actually start using it in the proper manner.
So in thinking about that, for educators who might not be as familiar with AI and they want to bring it into the classroom to be able to reap some of those benefits that you've both mentioned, where do you think is the best place for them to start?
Oh, me personally, I would use the tool that everyone's using nowadays, ChatGPT. We'll start them off there. And once they see how responsive and how quickly they're able to gather information from many sources across the internet, I think it'll start to sway them in the direction of using it more day to day to enhance what they're doing, not to replace what they're doing, but just to enhance it and make it a lot faster. We don't have to spend time filtering through multiple websites anymore. These AI algorithms are pointing at different resources online, pulling it all together for us, and then we can take it from there and implement it how we want to. As an instructor, I think we have to have an open mind about using these technologies. Don't shoot it down until you try it, because at first you may say, man, this is something that's going to take over and pretty much destroy education in terms of retaining information or being able to recall information, but it's not. It's a resource. It's like when I was growing up, I learned with books. I did my research with them, and actually one of my first gifts as a child, my father bought me an encyclopedia set. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but it was the hard copy version of it. And then I used to do a lot of research for my science projects with those encyclopedia sets. And then we evolved, and we had this Encarta World CD that I got next. I loaded that up into my computer, and now I had all of this paper, these 20-something books of 26 books of the encyclopedias, now all on one CD that I was going through. And then we hit the internet more, and then now we have this, and I think just moving with technology and following through with it will help us out.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think that it's also as simple as just asking AI, what are you? Right? Like a lot of people, when they're confused what AI is, I think that a great start is just asking it, what is it? Because again, it's an intelligent product. It's meant to inform you, it's meant to give you information. So just starting off with that simple question, what is AI? That's a great way to start.
And I love that you've both highlighted a couple different points, using it as a research tool, which is, I know, Jesse, something that we've talked about previously, and then just overcoming the fear of using AI in the classroom. I think that that's a really big issue, is we're trying to figure out how to leverage it as a tool without having it replace the human touch, the human element that we see is so important in the classroom today. So why do you think, in thinking about, we've talked about how it can benefit teachers, why do you think it's important for students to understand artificial intelligence?
Oh, this is going to be a technology used whether we like it or not. It's fast-paced, it's emerging now. It's been around for a while, but it's more relevant now. I think it's better for students to start learning about this at an earlier age, earlier stage, primarily because at first it looks like an easy way out to them. But as they get into more complex courses in high school and post-secondary endeavors, the work doesn't always necessarily become a recall situation where they're recalling information, spitting it back out to you. It's taking the information and interpreting it and applying it to different situations. I think them understanding what it provides and how we can use what it provides to solve problems is crucial. This is just making a Google search a lot easier when we're talking about generative AI. It's just getting the resources to you faster, and you're being able to understand that it's a more advanced Google search will set you up for success.
Love that.
Again, coming from a student perspective, when you enter the future workforce, it's now starting to be integrated with AI. So this is something that's going to be there, as Mr. Klu said, it's going to be there whether we like it or not. So it's something that if they are educated on it, they'll be on the forefront to actually start adapting and using it when they get to that workplace. However, if they're behind the 8 ball and not understanding it, that's just an additional step that they have to learn once they get into that workplace. And once they transition out of that student role.
Yeah, and for instructors, I think preparing them for I teach an industry, I teach IT. We have automotive, we have graphic arts, and a lot of these programs are using this in industry. And I think a good start is for you, the instructor, to educate yourself about how is your industry being impacted by AI, and because the students are going to have to go out there and start using it. One of the biggest things is computer science teachers. I think it's going to be replacing the coders. It may generate the code for you, but for every scenario and every situation where you're making code, it's unique and it's personalized. And you need to make it work for you. At the end of the day, there's still going to be someone who needs to debug and someone who needs to provide the human aspect of all of this. So again, it's not replacing us, it's just making our life a little bit easier. But we need to learn how to apply it into our everyday lives.
And I really wanted to echo that sentiment as well. I obviously work in marketing, but I think that AI is touching every different field. Even in my own job, doing a lot of content generation, there's a lot of AI tools that can assist with a ton of that, right? And streamline that process, but you still need that human element to be able to check in, make sure it matches the brand, the voice. And I know the same applies across the IT field as well. So in thinking about bringing AI into the classroom, what are some resources that you think teachers can use? And I believe we'll touch on some of these later to help students understand AI. If you're gung-ho, kind of ready to bring it in the classroom, you feel like you've studied and learned a little bit about it yourself, what's the next step to teaching it to the students in your class?
I think the instructor should start using it first. To put yourself in the shoes of a student. If you before assigning a student a project, try to complete the project yourself using some of the tools. There's so many tools out there. A simple Google search for anything that you're trying to do and just add AI at the end of it, you'll probably find a tool that's going to help you streamline the process. Try it out on your own. Give an assignment and ask ChatGPT to do the assignment for you. See what the responses are like. What I like to do is in my when I use Google Forms a lot for immediate feedback. So as soon as they submit it, they get immediate feedback on their assignments. I would ask AI the questions that I'm asking the students, and I copy and paste the responses into the feedback. So when they see it, they'll notice that I use the AI to get them that response. So they shouldn't be using it because I already know that it's out there. Just having the level playing field, it's funny to see when even down to textbook work, I would put the exact definition in their review. And when they hit submit and they notice that their answer is the same as the answer that I put in the response, then there's a problem. But try using it first before you bring it out to your students. See the responses that AI generates for your assignments, and maybe you can then modify it from there, taking the responses and then changing the way you're asking a question to your students. I think AI will help instructors the most when it comes to questioning and putting them, making them more effective questioning in their classrooms and on their assignments as well. So try it first before you bring it out to the classroom. Look for the tools. We're going to show you the tools that we know of and we use a lot, we like, probably about 5 or 6 of them, but there's hundreds out there that you can find. And a simple Google search will help you do that as well.
Yep, definitely, I agree with that. And again, we're talking about teachers getting started using it. I was talking to one of my coworkers recently, and he was saying he hasn't used ChatGPT yet, even though he agrees that it should start to be. He's not implementing it because he himself is learning how to use it first. And I think that's an important step, learning how to use it yourself before you can inform other people about it. So, I mean, I think that's the responsible thing to take the time to actually sit there, play around with it, use it in your personal life, use it when you're trying to make your lessons. And just starting like that, you'll get the ball rolling to start realizing what is the limitations of AI. And once you start reaching those limitations, then you can start being creative with it and start using it. And once you're creative with it, your students can be too. If
you haven't started using it or haven't tried to tinker with it yet, the students are. So we can't hide from the fact. If you're not using it in your classroom, I'm sure your students are using it, either for your class or for every day. We'll get to some testimonies from students, but I actually, before I did this, I had a brief lesson with my students just to get a feel about what they think about AI and how should we be bringing it in, should we allow it into the classroom. And then it's funny to see some of the mixed reviews, some of the students, and then they feel the way that we feel. We should use it to a point, and we should use it to help better ourselves. But again, if you're not using it and you haven't tried it yet, your students are trying it. Whether it's to have fun, there's a AI implemented Meta AI on Instagram where they're generating pictures of their friends and sending it as direct messages. So whether they're doing it for leisure or they're doing it for your work in your classroom, the students are using it. So if you haven't jumped on the ball yet, you should, and just try it again. Sorry about that.
Love it. Well, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys dive into the content that you've prepared then. Thank you so much for going through those questions, giving us a nice introduction into the topic. So I'm going to go ahead and let's dive in.
All right, so you want to start off?
That's one. So our first topic that we wanted to discuss, right? Before we can even talk about the tools with AI or how to implement it, a lot of people don't realize what the start of AI was, which it's not just a modern thing. It was originated in the 1950s, and it was a program to play the game of checkers, right? Something as simple as that. The first AI was made to replicate human actions and to have it think on its own, right? And that's kind of what that name stems from. It's an intelligent software program that was meant to start developing some sort of semblance to us as humans, right? When you're playing a game of checkers, you understand the mechanics of the game, you understand what each piece does, and you intelligently make a decision as to how you can actually progress in the game. Now, again, the first part of AI was to actually start creating a program that can replicate that human psychology or replicate that human touch. And a lot of people are going to hear that definition and they're going to say, hey, that doesn't necessarily sound like ChatGPT or what I've heard of it. That's because it's not necessarily the same. And that's a point that we're going to stress throughout this slides. And whenever we're talking about it, we always tell people AI is much more further beyond ChatGPT. So yeah, AI isn't ChatGPT. GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer Model. And obviously you're never gonna just go around telling people that, but that's what ChatGPT stands for. And what it really is, it's an AI model that generates text, images, and other content based on data. And that data is the foundational part of that. ChatGPT uses that data to pre-train itself in order to actually understand what responses it's going to give you. So it's also a form of conversational AI, meaning I can have a conversation with it as if it was a normal, intelligent human. I can give it some sort of prompt, I can throw it in a scenario, and it's going to respond in a conversational format. If it gives me, let's say, an output or an answer that I don't like or I don't agree with, I can reply and say, hey, the last response you gave me, I don't think it's this accurate. And it's going to reanalyze its data. And again, going back to that term, it's all pre-trained data. And it's now going to revamp its response and actually give me something that's more closer to what I wanted. And again, this is where it starts to become a little more creative on your end. You as the student or the teacher need to be a bit more creative with your responses, which we'll talk about today, and how you can gear your responses to have AI or ChatGPT work for you.
And again, most of the sorry about that. Sorry, we are in school today, so I apologize. So most of the tools that we will be discussing are a form of what ChatGPT is, and we're going to focus more on this generative AI as part of our presentation, because those are the ones that are helping us the most in the classroom right now, providing us with the resources, providing us with ways to generate lessons for our classes, to generate responses, to generate questions. So we're going to focus on a more generative approach of AI, and ChatGPT is one of them, and a lot of people is using it. And if that's, I think this should be your first step. Make an account. I know some schools may or may not allow this on their network, and it's totally up to the school on how they run their infrastructure. For our school, we have it allowed on our network because we think it's a useful resource for students. And I think if you need it, we need more people on the forefront of testing this stuff out, working with it to generate projects, come up with case studies on why it's effective in order for you to sway your administration into changing that policy and allowing it for an educational resource rather than just an answer bank. Remember, Javinder just pointed out a very important thing, that sometimes it's not always correct because it's getting its information from everywhere. It's learning, and you telling AI or ChatGPT that they're wrong, you're helping them learn and develop more correct responses to the answers to the questions that you're asking it. So it's, as humans, it's continuing to learn as it gets larger.
Yeah, and again, we'll talk about how it's been going through that iterations to learn. But a big point I wanted to point out is, again, going back to AIs and ChatGPT. ChatGPT is a form of AI, but ChatGPT is just a stem in the larger AI field. Right? There's generative AI, which we're going to be discussing today, there's a ton of educational tools that we've put together here that you can use. But AI has gone into many different directions. And once you start exploring it, you'll realize that AI is in pretty much every single field of life that we probably can interact with. So
this is like one of the biggest points that we want to stress to all instructors and anybody just getting started with AI. Don't be afraid. This is something new. This is something that's going to be very relevant in all industries, including the educational industry. Don't think of it as a tool for students to teach. I mean, not teach, to cheat. Think of it as a resource for them to better understand the material that you're covering. Think of it as a resource to help streamline your processes. Think of it as a resource for you to learn more about what you're teaching. All right, not every day are we able to get out into the industry and see what the new trends are, but we can ask AI to put us in that scenario based on what we're teaching. A lot of times we'll talk about AI across professionals in all industries, and one of their major fears is that it's gonna take my job. That's not happening yet. It's a resource right now for you to be better at your job, to accomplish things in a more timely fashion, and for you to be more accurate with the times and make sure that you're providing your employer with more advanced products. So don't be afraid. Try it before we speak negatively about it. Give it a shot in your personal life. Give it a shot in your professional life before we can make that judgment on whether or not we should use it. Again, one of the things that teachers often say is that they're open to it, but there should be limits. And with everything in life, there should be limits. And it's up to you to find those boundaries, and that comes through exploration.
Correct. And we kind of included the joke that made Mr. Clue use ... yet, because when we started exploring, we start to see some of the cool things that AI has to offer, right? Some of the responses, and when we get into some of the tools, the things it can produce, it is really good, and it looks very professional. So we always say, we make a joke, AI is going to take over, but not yet. It's something that it's still progressing. It's not something you should be afraid of learning, because again, as it goes on, it's going to progress with us as a society. And the more data we give it, the more data it's able to learn from, the better it can start helping us. And actually, we can implement it in our everyday to day life. So moving on to the timeline I wanted to show you guys is the AI boom, right? We've recently seen that AI boom, but what led to it? So these are a couple of things. I'm not going to specifically talk about every single one in specifics, but first time we ever saw AI was the first ever checkers program. It played and learned how to play checkers and imitate human responses. Some other things was an industrial robot. General Motors, one of the biggest car companies here in America, it was one of the first companies to take a robot and actually implement AI to work on the assembly line. So some of us remember the assembly lines from history class when it was first getting started to mass produce cars. General Motors, one of the biggest car companies, they implemented AI. Then you have moving on to the first driverless car that came out. There was AI in that. So again, it's ever so often progressing as time moves on and as we develop more data to feed into AI.
This was just to show you that it's not something totally new. It's been around for a while, and it's been implemented in various industries. We're just seeing it take over, come out more in our industry, in education, in student learning, because now it's generating the responses for us. It's generating and finding information faster than we could have done it without AI. But this tied into us telling you not to be afraid, because it's been around, and we're just taking it to the next level now.
Right, and as you guys see in bullet point number 5, OpenAI, that came out in 2020, where they began testing GPT-3, and when we get into specifically ChatGPT, we'll see how that has progressed from 2020 to now in 2023. But generative AI in the classroom.
Yeah, so we classified AI in the classroom into 2 categories. The ability to use AI to detect data patterns, feed it data and let it sort it through for you, let it analyze data for you, like by giving it the information that you've generated. And we've also classified it as to automate learning decisions, to provide students with resources, to provide teachers with resources, to generate lesson plans, to generate unit plans, to generate observations for administrators. AI is able to do that, but you still need to input your personalized feedback into all of these things. And again, it's automating these decisions, it's streamlining it, it's making it a lot faster. We don't have to sit there anymore and late nights putting together lesson plans for our class the next day. We can have it generated, and we can input what we think we should change. We can input modifications that we need for our students with learning disabilities. So it does it for you, but there's still the human element. So that's our two classifications in education: being able to analyze data that you gave it and be able to automate day-to-day tasks.
Right.
So now we will stop to talk about ways that we use it in the classroom. I mentioned a few of them. So for me, for example, I used AI or ChatGPT or any of the generative AIs to produce material to provide my students. So one of the things that a lot of teachers they struggle with in the classroom is questioning and making effective questions or higher level questions. I like to say that AI is the depth to recall questions. You can no longer ask a student a recall question: what is, define that, when was, because it's going to spit the information out to them. I think we now need to move towards a time where we're making more higher level questions, more scenario-based questions, project-based instruction, and AI can help you do so. If you're new to making these type of questions, ask the bot if ask the bot to make a scenario-based question on a topic that you are covering in class. So I use AI a lot for my questioning. I use it a lot to make my projects so that they're more relevant and more robust. I also use AI if you wanted to put together a lesson plan and find different methods for IEP modifications in your lesson. You can ask AI to provide you with some creative ways to modify your lesson for students with disabilities. You can ask it pretty much anything you wanted, and it will generate it for you. However, you need to take a step back and revise what was provided to you.
I definitely agree, and I've used it for a lot of the same things that he's been mentioning, but also I personally found myself using it for simply making quiz questions. So I personally am using my knowledge of whatever content I'm making the quiz for, but I can throw that question into ChatGPT and say, hey, how can I make this question a little more difficult, or how can I improve the wording so it enhances or kind of makes the student have to use critical thinking skills. So using this AI model, it can analyze your current work and try to elevate it, as well as being able to review it and catch any mistakes that you might have seen.
One of the cool things that he didn't mention it, but he told me what he uses AI for. When he's creating questions, he generates incorrect answers to questions. And I thought that was pretty cool, because we always try to steer away to not using too many multiple choice in the classroom. But whenever you do a multiple choice question exam or assignment, coming up with great incorrect answers is sometimes very hard. Because then you end up making these questions where the right answer just sticks right out. So he told me that, and I started doing this as well, just by listening to what he does in his classroom. He uses it a lot to make wrong answers. So I thought that would be pretty cool for those of you who are creating exams. You're creating assignments and activities for your students. Use it to make the questions more scenario-based, more project-based, and use it for the wrong answers too. You don't have to always look for the right answer. It can help you out in the opposite way as well.
Correct, and it speeds up your workflow very much. So like I can work when I'm in the morning, I'm setting up my multiple choice questions. I can make my entire quiz really quickly. Right, it leads to saving time, so I can now work on preparing my slideshow a bit better, clarifying a couple extra points on my time. So again, it increases your time management skills on that as well.
Well, we can, before we move on, are there any like specific questions that we may have for using AI in the classroom?
So far, I think we're good, but feel free to drop into the chat if anyone has any specific questions. But I think we're good to keep going.
So we surveyed a few teachers around the school that we're in, and these were just some of the responses that we got back. Our question to them was, should students and teachers have access to use AI in the classroom? So this is just a few points that came back from some of our instructors. The key thing is that most people are saying let's embrace it, but we have to take our time and figure out what the limits are to these programs, and how can we control these programs in the classroom. Most of the teachers that I spoke to are open to adapting and bringing this into their classroom. A lot of teachers were also hesitant because they were afraid that it's going to be used as a cheating tool, and it's going to make students more dependent on this type of program. But again, like we said, I think we should try it in smaller steps. Use it yourself, use it to create your lessons, use it to find the answers to the exact same thing that you're going to be providing your students with. Therefore, you're able to modify it. But take your time when pushing it out. Come up with projects where students have to use AI to answer the questions. I think if you make it apparent in your classrooms that the tool is there and you can use it, but we could use it to this extent, to these limits. We'll make for a better interaction or relationship between you and your class. They're going to use it regardless you tell them to use it or not. It's there, it's big now. But if you create your projects around using AI, I think you would have a better response, and you'll have more thought-provoking assignments to provide your students with.
Right, and going back to AI being able to analyze data at an immense rate. We see a couple of our teachers that say it's a 21st century dynamic approach to learning. So I can analyze bulk of data and summarize it into 2 or 3 bullet points where I can summarize and look at it really quickly, or something as easy as information is readily available through it. We've heard teachers say it's a high-powered Google, and it is true. Instead of looking up or making a quick Google search and having to look through links of different web pages, you can just ask ChatGPT to summarize something, and it gives you specific bullet points. And some of the tools we're going to talk about today as well, it provides you active links to real-life resources that are currently out there. So it's not just going to be a text-based thing where it's going to give you the answer. It'll point you to future resources where you can actually now then go and investigate more and build on your learning.
Right. And this is one of the biggest topics, is combating the misuse of AI, meaning misuse as in students are using it to copy and paste essay responses. Students are using it to answer multiple choice questions by looking for the answers using a tool like ChatGPT. The information is coming fast to them. They're able to modify the way it sounds. They're able to tell the AI to modify their essay based on certain parameters. So how do we combat the use of this in the classroom? And I have one teacher, he teaches automotive refinishing at our school. And he told me that his way of combating AI in the classroom is to have more presentations in his classroom. He has his students do a lot of videos in his classroom. That's one of his big teaching techniques in the classroom. They can use AI to find the resources. But when you're filming yourself and you're making a video based on a topic, or you're doing a presentation based on a topic, some level of you understanding and the personalized part of it comes in. If you're only giving your students recall essay type questions, which they can just find the information online, I think you're going to find them using it more and more the wrong way. In my classrooms, I teach networking. Everything is based on a specific scenario that I build around the topic. So for example, they can be setting up an infrastructure for a cafe, and the cafe has a service like DHCP running, which is a dynamic IP address service. It's specific to this scenario. All of my instructions are specific to this scenario. When they're answering the questions, it's based on the scenario that I built, and it's so personalized that they can't use something like ChatGPT to answer the questions. They can use it though to understand the topic that I'm teaching, but then they would have to take that information that was generated and apply it to the specific scenario that I brought to the table. So I think moving towards a more scenario-based, project-based instruction model will help combat the misuse of AI in the classroom. You're no longer asking a student to write an essay on this DHCP protocol, which they can just easily spit out with AI. You're asking them to apply it in a specific scenario, in a specific situation, where every answer could be different based on how you tweak the scenario. So, more videos, more presentations, more social interactions, more scenario-based instruction, more project-based instruction, I think would help students not stay away from AI, because they can still use it to gather the information, but they'll take that information that they got from the AI and apply it to the specific situation that they were put into. And that, I think, will promote more, number one, student engagement and student understanding of the topic that you're covering.
And it's stemming off of that, the student usage of AI. We've seen a growing increase of students using it across multiple age groups. So whether it be secondary schools or high school students, down to post-secondary students, which I've had experience going from my high school years, which AI was first starting to come out, then now into college, where I currently use AI still. We see that students are now getting into it at multiple points, and the importance of them learning how to use it is very there. It's there. There's a need for them to learn it. So one of the personal examples I like to use is I use AI to visualize some of the questions that I get. So let's say if I'm in a networking class and I'm not really sure about a concept, I'll ask ChatGPT. I'll say, hey, given this concept, can you give me a scenario in which that would be used? And based on that scenario, I'll read it over. So again, I'm working on my literacy skills, being able to read and analyze based on something that ChatGPT gave me, and then I can now ask it real-time questions that I have based on that scenario. So it's made my life easier. So now if I don't understand a topic, I can go home and I can now work on it on my own. But now I'm not just reading through Google articles that I can't interact and ask questions with. I have an active scenario that I can actually interact with and say, hey, what if this happens though? What if this happens in this scenario? I can now create variations that help me better learn. And I personally say, as a student, it helps for different learning models. There's some visual thinkers that require that scenario-based learning in order to understand it. There's also the people that are able to just read documents and they'll understand it through reading alone, not scenario-based learning. So that's also an option. Some of the other tools that we've seen is just students that are able to visually understand things through images. There's image AIs where you can enter text and they can actually make an image for you. So that's another thing. Or I would say also disabilities. Any student that physically can't hear, right, that has visual aids, the AIs. It also has translation AIs for anyone that is from a different language or is trying to understand something in a different language. So I think there's various tools that we need to start implementing and learning as students in order to actually enhance our learning, rather than just having a teacher implement it in that class. It's also on us as students to start learning it.
AI or this generative AI that we're speaking of, the conversational AI, is the teacher that the student can take home. This is like you just pointed out, you can continue to ask questions about a specific scenario or topic. You can introduce variables. What if I change this? What if I added that? Can you explain to me a little bit more? I'm not quite understanding what you're saying. When we start learning how to use the AI, it's as if you're interacting with a human, and you speak to it as if you're interacting with a human. I don't understand what you're saying. Can you please rephrase that? And it'll do it for you. So again, we can guide our students. We are teachers. We are facilitators of instruction. We can guide them, tell them to go through the topics that they need to cover, teach them how to troubleshoot, how to break things down. But then they can go home and ask follow-up questions if they were still confused about the things that I covered in class. So again, like I say, this is a teacher that the student can have at any time. It can be on the bus, on the train, it could be at home, and a student can have a conversation about a topic that was covered that they don't quite get.
And I think a big point as a student is learning to leverage AI instead of just using it as a cheating tool. And a lot of students, once you start teaching them how they can leverage it, they'll actually help boost their productivity and actually understand how to perform a lot more tasks a lot more efficiently.
There's a lot of webinars like this, introducing the concept of AI and overcoming the fears of AI, and it's all over, and it's becoming more and more and more relevant because it's out there. And we have to be honest with ourselves. If we're not changing the way we're teaching, the misuse of AI in your classroom is going to be there. If you're not changing the way your instruction is, or how you're structuring your lessons, or how you're posing your questions, or how you're assessing your students, they can use it to spit the answers out, and it's a fact. But if we change the way that we teach and the way that we have students use information that's there, I think it'll be more effective. And it's going to be there. It's all over. Everyone's using it. I think it's up to us to change the way that we're doing our instruction, and use AI to help you do that. You use AI to help you come up with the scenarios if you're not haven't been in the field for a while. It'll give you relevant information. Use AI to come up with your exams. Use your AI to build your project-based instructions. So not only that students are going to be using it for your class, but you're going to use it to build these classes. And again, make it personable to what you're teaching and how your personality is.
Yeah, and so just like Ms. Klu was saying, he took a poll of his class, and these are some of the student feedback. So you have both sides of it. You have students that are saying that the information isn't always accurate, or you have on the flip side another student saying that it can't beat a professional teacher asking questions to them. So again, you have students on both sides of the aisle, and I think that the main great unifier for that would be having them understand how to use it and manipulate AI to suit their needs better. So like we have other students that say it's an inevitable tool that students are going to need to learn and they need training for. Because a lot of students have come out openly and said, hey, I don't know what AI is, I don't know how it works, but I'm willing to learn and actually understand how this can help them. And another person says, having AI is just a natural progression to education, which is very true. We're seeing it being used today. So without learning it, you're kind of putting yourself at a disadvantage, not like you're willingly not adapting to what is out there and what can be used. I think that's something that's big out there that all students should be learning and actually making an honest attempt to learn and implement it in whenever they're doing any projects, schoolwork, or even just in their personal life again.
I just wanted to just leave everybody with this statement before we break out into some of the tools that we wanted to cover really quickly. We want to supercharge creative thinking. Don't replace it. AI is not going to replace creativity in your classroom. It's not going to replace you in the classroom. It's not going to replace personality in the classroom. It's not going to replace innovation in the classroom. It's just going to supercharge it. It's just going to help you streamline it. It's going to help you take it to extents that you've never taken it before. And again, it's going to increase productivity, efficiency, and again, make you more creative. Now you have to be more creative when you're developing your lessons and your assignments as instructors. So again, I just want to leave you with that statement: supercharge creative thinking. Don't replace it. Don't think it would be replaced.
Definitely agree. So the next section of our slide is going to be on artificial intelligence tools for the classroom, which we've put together a list of tools that both me and Mr. Klu have used before. So we have the generic chatbot. That's where we started. We have ChatGPT, which a couple of alternatives that people haven't really seen before, but they are out there. There's Google Bard and Bing Chat. Those are some of the chatbot AIs that allow you to communicate, to do some searching, and it is pre-trained. So it's the same GPT model where it has some sort of educated intelligence from pre-learned data. Moving on, we also have some text-to-image AIs, where like Adobe Firewall or DALL-E, which is made by the same company that makes ChatGPT. That's actually something where I can provide a text, some sort of statement, and it'll produce an image for me. We also have teacher-focused AIs, so like TeacherBot or Quillbot. Voice generation, where it can take text and actually convert it into a voice. Lovo AI is another one of them.
Yeah. So before we keep moving, like we mentioned, PowerPoint Designer. This slide deck was created using PowerPoint Designer. So we use AI to help make our graphics come to life, our transitions, to find backgrounds that'll look nice, to find icons. And we use PowerPoint Designer to create this slide deck, which is pretty cool because if I have to be honest with you, I'm not this graphically inclined. I'm not this creative when it comes to putting together graphics, but I was able to use PowerPoint Designer to help get nice backgrounds, get them positioned and scaled correctly, get icons for more more effective slide decks. So we use something like that to help create this presentation today. Another one that I really liked and I used recently, and that's why we included it, was the voice generation, the Lovo AI. I actually use it to send out robocalls in my school. So we just had parent-teacher conferences, and we would send out this call to all the parents in our building, and I just have to type in the message that I wanted to send, and it would generate it using whatever voice I selected on the AI. Or, which was really cool, is that it took my voice and it made a clone of my voice, and it could sound as if this message was coming from me, and without me having to record it. I would just type in what I wanted it to say, and it would go ahead and do the work for me. So I recently just used that voice generation to send out my robocalls to all of the students in the building and all the parents, and it worked really well. And one of the cool things is the clarity behind it. Sometimes maybe some of us talk too fast, or our voice may sound muffled when we're making one of those calls. This solves all of those problems for us. We come up with the message, it gives us a clear and concise recording generated from it. So we use a lot of these, not just in the classroom, but to help streamline day-to-day functions in the building. So don't just think of it just for your classroom, personal life, work life, whichever it may be.
Definitely. And three more of the tools we actually have used before is the Google Translation. One, they have AI, so it's Google Cloud Translate, and also the company Meta has came out with one as well. So a point about those actually is some of these AI tools that we're talking about, so majority of the first ones that we talked about were free, but the translation ones, and particularly that's the ones I wanted to highlight, they are paid. And some of these tools, while they might be paid, they are really good tools and they perform their job very well. So companies like Meta, they offer a paid subscription to that AI. However, it does the job very well, where it can actively translate any type of text to something that you actually wanted to hear. Google Cloud Translate is another alternative. They actually offer a $300 credit, which I've seen. So that's also another alternative for translating. There's also the regular assistant AI, so Siri, Alexa. There's another one called Taskade. Those are all AIs that are going to help you with your productivity, and they kind of act like a virtual assistant, which is pretty cool. And then we have lastly the integration AIs. So that's the ones that you probably have seen with your Grammarly's, your Canva, your Kahoot, your Edpuzzles. Those are all implementing AI now. AI is, again, growing into all of these different fields just to make our lives so much easier. So tools like Edpuzzle, Kahoot, Canva, Grammarly, they use AI to intelligently adapt to whatever input we're putting in there, whatever data we have. And the more users that are using it, it now starts to develop more intelligence. It now gets to see more of our English language to correct us on certain statements that we make with Grammarly. Canva, it starts to identify what users or what people are designing on Canva, and it starts to recognize trends and see, okay, cool, this person really likes monotone designs. I'm going to start making or recommending monotone designs to them or templates for them. So I think that's something that we should start recognizing, the fact that our tools are now being integrated with AI.
Yep, and then the integrations are back to what we discussed earlier about data and being able to interpret data. And in these integrations, they're taking the data from the input of the students. Maybe it may be something like Edpuzzle Kahoot, where they're taking the data that the students are inputting it, and they're analyzing the data on the back end. So a lot of the programs that you've been using have some sort of AI integration in it that's spitting out the results to you, telling you where we need to improve, where we're exceeding, and it's all doing it through an AI algorithm. One of them that I wanted to point out before is UAI. We're probably going to briefly just touch on it. It's like a chat GPT. You can ask it questions. But the cool thing about UAI is it provides you the links on where they found this information from, so that you can further investigate the content that was generated for you. So that's one that I really like as well, just because it gives you the links, and it also helps you with how you pose your questions to the AI. So that's one maybe you want to take a look at.
Yeah, no, definitely. So actually, we'll jump right into our demo of some of these AI tools. All right, so yeah, so let's start with something like ChatGPT. So I try to differentiate some of our scenarios here. So this one was taking the role of a social studies student. They will go to ChatGPT and they can enter something like explain the fall of the Roman Empire. So if I click generate right here, it's going to start generating a big list of different reasons why the Roman Empire fell. Now, again, the problem with this is it's a lot of information here. And I also did not specify in my prompt how I wanted it to be structured. So that's a slight issue that some students run into, where they're basically generating or inputting these generic questions. And that's an example. If you were, as a teacher, to make a very generic question and the students pop it in, they're able to get all this information, but it doesn't necessarily help them. So an alternative would be, I can interact with AI and say something like, hey, I'm a student in the 10th grade global history class. I would like to know the 3 primary reasons the Roman Empire fell. Please include some specific dates. So if I now enter a prompt like that, it responds to me. And now it's actually going to give me certain dates and an explanation. But some of these explanations are now going to be geared towards a 10th grader, because I have now specified that, hey, I'm a 10th grader. So now AI is going to use its intelligence to realize, okay, they're in 10th grade. I can't really use those higher vocab words with them. So I'm going to dumb it down a bit. All right, I'm going to give it information that it can the 10th grader can easily consume. It also noted that I wanted some dates on there. So it's going to start including some time ranges that it itself knows. All right, and also another thing that I wanted to highlight is that it noticed that I said it only wanted 3 reasons. It summarized the main reasons and put them into concise terms that I can now use. All right, and now if I wanted to, I can now interact with these responses and say, hey, can you explain the third point more? All right, and now it's going to actually start to explain a little more in the political instability and leadership crisis. All right, so that's something that, again, it's very important with AI. You can now start pointing certain things out and interacting with it.
And notice that he's interacting with it as a human, asking it questions as if we would ask up here. So it doesn't have to be something robotic. You can have a conversation with it and get the outputs.
Correct. And so another one, which is u.com. That was another one that we wanted to point out because it's very nice for the links that it does provide. So I can access something as simple as, what are the different types of malware? Right, so this is an IT question, and if I click on go, it's not only going to give me an AI response, but if you notice at the top, it's now highlighted 6 different links that I can now go to. If I wanted to open a new tab, I can now navigate to those websites. I believe it's being hidden right here. All right, I can now go to these links. Oh, sorry, right here. I can go to these links, and now I can research on this website based on what AI gave me. It is also summarizing all that information for me if I didn't want to go to any of these websites and I wanted to do it. Or I could do a combination of both. I can read this, get a brief synopsis of what I'm researching, and then go to some of these websites to actually understand what it's talking to me about.
If you scroll all the way down after it's done generating, it helps you come up with better questions. Maybe you don't know how to phrase the question or the prompt, and it'll give you suggested questions that you can ask it as well to further your studies, or maybe it'll actually pinpoint the exact question that you meant to ask. So it'll help you through the process of developing more concise and effective prompts.
Right. And another one we have is Adobe Firefly. So the nice part about Adobe Firefly, this is one of those generative picture AIs where it allows you to actually start creating images. So I'm going to just sign in really quickly. Sorry about that. All right, so this is actually in a free tool from Adobe where it allows us to actually generate AI images based on a certain prompt.
It's refreshing.
Right, so I can just enter my link and click on generate, and should take me to a page with my generate.
All right,
Yeah, I'm not sure why it's not working, but Adobe Firefly is definitely one of those tools that you might want to check out. Then we have another one called TeacherBot. TeacherBot is actually the same generative type of AI, except it's actually gearing it more towards the educational side or the teacher side. So I can use a prompt like create a lesson plan for a 12th grade networking class, and I can give it certain characteristics like what certification they're aligning to, or what is the lesson going to be about, and also what do I want the lesson plan to be like. All right, so by clicking create, I believe it's sorry about that. Leave all my links timed out since I have them open before. So I can now start to access this prompt, and it'll start creating it for me. So this is actually going to go through, analyze my prompt, and start pulling resources from its own database.
Well, so while it's generating, let's take a look at the last one.
Yeah, and while it's generating, we can look at the voice AI. So we have something like this where I wrote out a specific piece of text, and I can actually go ahead and click on generate, which is at the bottom. All right, by clicking generate, if you look on the right side, it now is actually going to start taking that text and converting it into some sort of speech. So this does take a bit of time actually. So if you look in the top, it has a elapsed time. It says I have 19 minutes left. So there is a paid service as well. So over time, you will have to buy it. It allows you 20 minutes of free generative voice. After that, you would have to go.
And then if we go back to the lesson plans, I think we're
all right, and this is how the lesson plan looks. So it really outlined every single part of that lesson plan that I asked. And I told it that I wanted it to align it to a specific framework, which it has did. Right. So,
all right, so that'll lead us to the end of our presentation.
Wonderful. Well, we are just about out of time, so I just wanted to go over some quick housekeeping items, and it looks like we've had some wonderful comments in the chat about how awesome these resources are. So thank you both for going through and preparing the presentation for us. We really appreciate it. I just wanted to give two quick call outs. As part of the Certified Academy IT program, we offer a boot camp. So teachers who are interested in testing out the certifications, those who are interested particularly in the IT specialist AI certification or curriculum, practice tests and certification exams, you want to see them before you give them to your students, we absolutely encourage that. If you haven't registered for the boot camp, there's still an opportunity to do so. Email us at certifiedacademy@pearson.com and we'll take care of you. You can also read about it on our blog, and I'm just going to go ahead and drop the link here into the chat in case anyone needs to check that out as well. So give me just a second. Perfect. The last thing I wanted to say is that our Certified Academy program is an amazing build up to our annual Certified Educators Conference, which will be happening in Orlando, Florida this next June. Registration is now open. And the great thing is we are still in the early bird stages, so you can get a discount if you register early. If you want to enhance your experience, learn from educators like Jesse, like everyone else who's been here on the call today, it's a wonderful chance to be able to collaborate and learn about these types of new tools, and just be able to sit with other educators who are in your same space. So you can go check that out, get registered at certified.certiport.com. As always, thank you everyone so much for taking time out of your day to be here with us. We really appreciate all of you sharing your expertise. And we're really grateful to Jesse and everyone else who's been here to tell us a little bit more about AI. So thank you everyone for being here with us. We hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good day.